it is kind of mandatory to ask your opinion of what you think of Pakistan's performance. We all know how Pakistan fared. It did not make the semi-final. How do you view it? What do you think?
So so my views I may have two different views on that question, because if I look at it as a fan, I I may have a very emotional kind of approach towards my answer. But if I look at it from a perspective of a sports marketer, my view will be different. But talking as a fan right now, I think it was, I think, needless to say, but very disappointing for the entire nation, because sport, cricket is something that unites Pakistan. Everyone's looking forward to this mega event, after numerous years, as it happens. So yeah, it was. I think it was pretty disappointing. But if I look at it as a sports marketer and management expert, I think it was inevitable, because our board kind of undergoes such radical changes. You have three different chairmen in about a year's time. So such organization which is not that stable, I don't think can produce effective results, in my opinion. So as a sports marketer, it was no shock or no surprise for me, as I feel that we did not prepare for this mega event as the other teams did. And at the end of the day, I think it reflects.
Oh, so basically, what you're trying to say is that the result that we see, you were pretty much anticipating the same, given how the board has been governed. And I think it's not even just got to do with the board. The management of the Pakistan Cricket Board is reflective of how Pakistan, the state, the Islamic Republic, is being managed, given that, I mean, there's political instability. One government after the other are being toppled. There's also skeptics who believe, not skeptics actually, critics who claim that behind the curtain there's another entity that is running Pakistan and not the democratically elected government or the caretaker government. Anyhow, these are topics for to discuss some other day. But like pivoting back to cricket. Pakistan did not perform well. Everyone knows that. But within the matches that were being played, what we witnessed, and also that has got to do something that was in the making, courtesy India, the state, and the Board of Cricket Control in India, that other than the contingent, the team that went to visit India, that toured India for the World Cup, there was not a lot of Pakistani representation in terms of journalists, in terms of commentators, in terms of management as well. And barely, or I guess maybe none of the spectators were ever granted visa. And that is what we saw, that there was no support for the Pakistan cricket team in India as they were playing against various other nations. How do you think that translates, and how does that impact the psyche of the players, and how demoting was that? Was it an instrumental factor that played in the results that we see? And what do you think was? I'm sure no one would say that this was the right step in the right direction, the undertaken by India, of course. Cricket is something that tends to bridge gaps rather than cause further divides, but it is what it is. So, what's your take on that?
Yeah, no, I think very interesting question, if I may. I think the very core or gist of any sporting event is inclusion, basically. It's unity. It's bringing people together. It's about togetherness. It's about celebrating that festivity together. I think that is what is the core of any sport, if you look at it. Whether it be football, the club format, whether it is the franchise cricket, it's about people coming together, as well as the World Cup. What is the point of? I think, from a sports perspective, I look at it. The whole purpose of doing these mega events is to support, inclusion, right? And if there's no inclusion, people are not allowed to travel from one country to the other. I think then such events make little sense, where some people are deprived from participating or watching such events. I think that was very devastating for the fans. And as far as it being translated into the team performance and how it impacts, obviously, if there are supporters in a particular stadium, which Pakistan did not have, it obviously does impact. 90,000 people supporting India, or any other team for that matter in a stadium. It obviously kind of affects the morale of another team. But having said that, I think we should not take that as an excuse, because for any sportsman, I think the journey of becoming and representing your country at a national level, I think it is imperative that a sportsman should learn how to adapt to different situations, how to handle pressure, how to handle such situations where there are less supporters. Pakistan team is, or any team for that matter, is playing in similar conditions. You did not also see, and correct me if I'm wrong, 30% of audience supporting Australia in the final match, or any other team for that matter. So even if Pakistanis were allowed, those numbers would have been very little if you compare to the Indian support that India would have got through those matches. So I don't think if we take that as an excuse of Pakistan not performing at that level, I think any sportsman at this level should be prepared to face such environment and to perform. So yeah, I think to the fans it's unreasonable, but the players should have been prepared for this, and we saw it coming. But as far as the BCCI is concerned, I think, and the ICC's role, which I see in this, is pretty disappointing, because sport is supposed to bring people together, like I said. And if such events, such preparations, and such agreements were not in place, and undertakings were not taken by India, then this event should have happened, somewhere else for that matter, because Pakistan is a full member playing nation, and contributes hugely to the success of cricket globally. So I think then the BCCI or the ICC, especially, not the BCCI, the ICC should have considered a separate venue if they were not able to take Pakistanis into India to watch these games. I think this is very unreasonable.
Actually, I can't agree more. Actually, on both your points. The first one, that of course that the sportsmen, the players themselves should have been ready for this hostile environment. But it was unfortunate, the environment, there was such hostility. Even our coach Mickey Arthur said in one of his press conferences that they were not allowing Pakistani songs to be played.
Mm.
Any slogans or chants or cheers for supporting Pakistan, for example, Pakistan Zindabad, were being completely curbed right there and then. So it was, I mean, disappointing is a very sanitized word to use, but it was sad to see such hostility. But again, the players should have been ready, and the ICC should have had a more proactive role in making sure that they balance the scales as much as they could. So on that end, going beyond the World Cup, what we've seen is that BCCI has evolved as a mammoth, as a gigantic entity in the cricketing world, and it has, rightly so, even overtaken the mandates of the ICC. It has become so powerful. It contributes the largest amount of budget, the largest amount of funds. The IPL pays much more than any other cricketing league happening around the world. So they've been really been able to establish this overwhelming, overarching influence over every other nation that tends to play cricket within the cricket domain. Now, it seems, as an outsider, it seems like a very unhealthy dynamic. A couple of years ago, the big three were formed between India, Australia, and England, and now even the other two seem to have subsided. It's just like one big entity that controls everything, and it controls the international dynamics and it controls the international politics, again related to cricket. But it is what it is. How do you think it impacts other nations on the periphery, such as, I mean, Pakistan is a full member country, but there are other associate countries playing as well. Uh, how does that view that? Do you not think that rather than helping cricket become a more global sport in terms of the countries that are playing, it's becoming more and more confined because of the fact that power is being concentrated in such, finite number of fans?
Yes, Norez, I think you've kind of hit the nail in the head. But yeah, this influence. If I talk about, if I talk 5 years, if I would we would have been having this conversation 5 years back, we may have had difference of opinion on this, that if BCCI has power into the ICC and how it's controlled. But I think as time has passed, it has been very evident that the BCCI plays a very important role in the selection of the future tour programs that India has, as well as other countries as well. So that after the IPL became such a huge commercial success, if I may, after that it has obviously, India has become the center of the power basically, and they have been able to control the dynamics of cricket to quite a great extent, and we could see that in the World Cup as well. If you look closely, so having said that, when I was working, in the UAE on a particular league, which was called the UAE T20X. Now they call it the IL T20. And I've had the opportunity to work very closely with the Emirates Cricket Board, as well as their senior management and the people in their boards as well. And even in the Emirates Cricket Board, I saw through my tenure, and I'll be very blunt and upfront about this, I saw a lot of Indian lobbying and a lot of Indian involvement. So it is just not confined to the ICC. They are actually involved with the Afghanistan cricket team as well. Afghanistan Super League, which was, if I recall correctly, was actually funded by Indian businessmen, and those Indian businessmen are actually supported by, one of the other members of the BCCI, Rajiv Shukla, in the times when I was working there, and and at that point in time, the league that they now call ILT20 was actually conducted by and was being developed by Pakistanis, and one of the member and the chairman of that particular league was Mr. Salman Sarwar Butt, and I think you know about him as well. And he was the MD of the PSL too. So I was project directing that league, and right when we sold, three teams, they decided to remove the CEO of the Emirates Cricket Board, and the name of the CEO was David East. He was an Australian and pretty much working hand in glove with us. So some of the members, and this is a first hand experience that I'm sharing with you. So first they removed the CEO of the league to sabotage that league because they saw potential in it. Later on, they decided that they don't want to go ahead with that league without telling us any solid reasons, and we had to call the league off and pack our bags and come here, just because it was run by it was run by Pakistani sports
Management.
market.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that I saw it there, and now after 2 years, I see that ILT20 league being there, and pretty much being done by Indian management, supported by the BCCI, and that's how people like Shah Rukh Khans of the world, and other franchise owners of similar teams in the IPL have come on board. Otherwise, a financial the ILT20 does not look to me as a product which can be financially sustainable. So these leagues are developed to sabotage other leagues that are happening in the similar window, like the PSL. So the ILT20 actually happens in January. So the players are actually in a fix whether they should play the PSL or they should play the ILT20. ILT20 pays a huge sum to the players participating. So obviously they tend to do it in the same window. So that, having said that, there's a lot that we can add to this. I think that involvement is there, and it is damaging cricket hugely as a sport and giving a very bad message out there for that particular place. If you look at FIFA, for example, FIFA has such a stringent and a very professional development agenda, which I never saw ICC adopting or having. That vision or that mindset is not there. When we were, younger, if you could recall, there are the same number of full member test playing nations that we see now. Maybe they're a little less.
Yep.
Maybe they're a little less than what the number used to be. So I think this is a huge failure in terms of development of sport and converting it into a sport which is global. Whereas if you look at FIFA, they even fund their associate members, like Pakistan. Though football here, there's no infrastructure, no development, and I've had the honor of working with the Pakistan Football Federation as well. So FIFA actually really governs and really owns and really gets into these smaller associate nations where they want to develop that sport and get that viewership in. Cricket, on the other hand, it's there's a power center which is India. First it was a big three, and this is not helping. This is not how you run sports. This is not how you develop sports at a global level, and eventually it will never be commercially as big as it should be. If it grows organically globally, if we have, I would love to see USA playing, coming in. I was very happy to see Afghanistan actually playing so well in this World Cup. And you these half member countries, the ICC needs to invest in them. The ICC needs to have an approach minus the BCCI, and have these associate members come in and develop over years into a full member test playing nations. That's how the sport and cricket as a sport will flourish commercially, as well as we have talked about inclusion and togetherness. That's what any sport is about, I think. It's to project the softer image of a country, and as a nation as well. So I think that's a big question mark on the ICC. I would rather blame ICC for this than BCCI. Any board would want to control a particular sport and work it in their favor, which is the wrong thing to do again. But the I guess money makes the mayor go, and that's what's happening with the ICC as well, cricket at large. But disappointing indeed, as you said.